Hey everybody, you are listening to the Vocal Advancement Podcast. I am your co-host Tom, joined by the lovely Heather as always.
Mbula.
Oh, where are we in the world today?
Fiji. Apparently this is it Fijian? Yeah, the language of Fiji. Apparently, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that very accurately, but Mbula.
I feel like I've heard that before, somewhere, like in a film or something. It seems familiar.
Somewhere. Yeah, I'm trying to think now what films were set in Fiji.
I think we're going to have to start visiting the countries that we say the languages of, just to get a real authentic taste of the language.
Have we got the budget for that, Tom?
Probably no.
If you would like to sponsor the Vocal Advancement Podcast...
I only travel first class, darlings.
You never know, British Airways might be up for a sponsorship deal.
Oh, yeah. That'd be great.
Yeah,
that actually would make a lot of sense given conferences and teachers and,
Yeah, absolutely. Fly us around the world.
EvaCon 2024 sponsored by British Airways. Yeah. I love it.
We've got to stop saying their name. They've got to pay us before we start dropping their name in the conversation.
That's right, yeah. We'll have that edited out. Blank Airways.
We're open to all airways sponsoring. Yeah.
Yeah. Just anywhere would be nice to go for a holiday.
Wouldn't it?
The Great British Summer is in full swing, so that means it's grey and cloudy and rainy.
Thunderstorms everywhere.
Yeah, we had a thunderstorm warning on Saturday from 9 a.m. to midnight, so, the whole day. And it was just like, should we put the washing out? Should we not put the washing out? Should we cut the grass? Should we not? In case it rained? And it was just like, no. It was fine until it was 5
I never
o'clock.
trust the British weather to let me hang the washing out. I'm always like, even if it's blazing sunshine, I'm like, maybe I'll just hang it inside, just in case.
Oh no, we had glorious sunshine yesterday. Glorious. It was lovely.
Nice.
So I decided, and like my kitchen was 26 degrees with the heat, I decided I was going to pull my dishwasher out to fix it after needing a part for like 3 months. So 10 minutes after pulling it out, when one was rather soaking in sweat and thinking about their life choices, the dishwasher poured water all over the floor.
Get you, handyman.
Well, it's like £140 call out, and then the part's like £80. And I'm like, I'm paying that. I could do it myself. It's like 3 cables.
My husband does. He's constantly on YouTube figuring out how to do it. I could do that. I'm not paying someone to do it. I could do it myself. And I'm thinking, just pay someone.
I could. Well, you see, before I was like, what, £140, ridiculous. And then they charge you by like every 12 minutes, they charge you increments. I'm like, that's ridiculous. It's like one part with 3 cables. So like 15 minutes into the repair, when they discovered the part was like right at the very back, like surrounded by all these things that looked like they would probably shock me to death if you touched them in the wrong way. I was like, I can understand now why people pay people to do this.
Yeah, we had a similar one at ours. We live on an old farm, so there's a big farm gate, and the farm gate had gone all rotten, so we needed a new one. So they bought this farm gate, and I live next door to my brother-in-law and his partner, and so my husband and my brother-in-law were like, "Oh, we can put the farm gate in." They quoted them like something like £300 to install it, and they were like, "Oh, I'm not paying that. We'll put it in ourselves." They spent a day, the two of them, a whole day doing it, and then they've had to go back and readjust it about 100 times since then because they've not put the hinges in right, and it starts to drag, and then it won't open properly, and then they've recently had to put a wheel on it so that might stop it, and now the wheel's wonky, and I can't open the gate, and I'm like, why did you not just pay them the money?
It's even more embarrassing when you get them in after you've tried to do it yourself. Yes. And they're just looking at you like, no. Now it's £400.
What did you do? Exactly. Like, now it doesn't seem like it was a ridiculous amount.
But I'm happy to report that the dishwasher's working, and there was
fabulous.
No floods, and we saved ourselves £140.
Oh, well done you.
My partner, of course, is like, just get a new dishwasher. Just get a new dishwasher. Like, if it floods, if it blows up, like, just get a new one. I'm like, it's like £1,200 for a new dishwasher, and it's an £80 part. And it's like, that's what they want you to do. They want you to buy a new dishwasher. And then all the conspiracy theories come out. Mm-hmm. It broke because they want you to buy a new one. They sent a Wi-Fi signal to it that made it break.
That's what I say about cars. I'm like, it always breaks like 1 month after it's gone out of the warranty. Like they do that on purpose.
Yeah, my mum had a TV. It broke the day after the warranty expired, and the place that she bought it from told her to get stuffed. I was like, oh, I don't think so. So I argued for hours with them, and they told me all manner of nonsense that I won't go into. Like, the guy lied to me on the phone, and I was like, is this call recorded? He's like, yeah. It's like, great, because you just lied to me. Let's speak to your manager now. Needless to say, we got a new TV.
Oh, well done. I say, sometimes it's worth stamping your feet and, getting
We're
your way
very
with
good.
people.
Me and my partner are very good at complaining. We've become expert complainers. I mean, lots of things justified, but we've become very good at writing stinking... If I ever got one of those complaint emails for IVA, I would be like, oh, crap. Crying in the corner, no. So much
a bit
better.
of social media shaming always helps. A little bit of stick it on all their social media that they've done a bad job. That
Do you know what
helps.
else works as well? The threat of leaving Facebook and Google reviews. I'm so disappalled by the service that I feel that I need to let other customers know about this on Facebook and Google reviews, and suddenly, let's just get you a brand new one.
Oh, I like that.
Not that we're advocating for blackmail, but consumers.
So you're right.
Yes, consumer rules. Anyway, now that we've gone down that rabbit hole, see, we didn't complain about weather this time. We had,
we did a little bit, but only for a little bit. It's funny. I always listen back to these podcasts before they go out, and just say, "Oh, cut this bit." And last time I was like, "We're going to have to cut some of our weather talk out." We blabbed on about the weather for way too long last time. Like, cut at least 5 minutes of weather talk out of that. Can't help ourselves.
It's just such a British thing to do, isn't it?
Isn't it just?
If it's not the weather, it's something else, like broken dishwashers or farm gates.
Complaining. Yeah, love it.
Yeah, we're good at it.
So who's our guest today, Tom?
Oh, we have an interesting guest today. We had at our conference recently, we had Kim Chandler, who came along, and she did this Beyond the Major Scale presentation for our teachers, which involved lots and lots of singing weird and wonderful things like Dorians and Lydians and stuff. Can't pronounce half of it.
I was going to say, just the sorts of things that, musos, proper musical people are very au fait with, but some of us, it was all an entirely new language, but some really, really interesting stuff. Kim is all about trying to encourage more musicianship within singers and within voice teachers as well, and pushing them to think outside the box and encouraging their students to sing not just major scale exercises, but also to try and introduce other scale patterns, which, like I say, are less... I don't want to say less usual. It's not that they're less usual, because they are usual. Those scales are used in the creation of music. But in terms of training voices, I would say it's less common to use scales that aren't major scales. We all tend to use major scales when we're building voices, training voices. And Kim was just challenging us to think about, well, do we have to? Could we also build the voice using a different scale pattern?
Yeah. It was a very interesting class, and it was a fun chat. Kim is full of energy, and our teachers absolutely loved the session. So let's chat to Kim and see what she's got to tell us.
Let's find out about Kim. Yeah.
So Kim, thank you so much for joining us on our podcast. We're looking forward to having a good old chat with you today after your class at conference. So I thought we'd start maybe gently ease ourselves into it. So can you tell... I know. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in the world of singing.
Oh my Lord. even Oh, okay. I'm going to try and keep this as succinct as I can. It's a bit tricky. So I grew up in Australia. I was born in Sydney, and I grew up in a very musical home. my grandmother, who we lived with, because my parents were very young teachers at that point, and Sydney was an expensive city even then, let alone what it's like now. So we lived with my grandparents for a couple of years while they sort of got on their feet and things, because they actually met at Teachers College, which is really sweet. And they sang together, my mum and dad, and some other people that they went to college with. We used to have loads of family parties, musical parties, because my grandmother was a full-time musician. So she was a really lovely keyboard player, not pianist, and had her own function band in Sydney that she ran for decades. And so she would play around the house all day. And when mum and dad were at work, she would look after me. She was my main carer at that time. So the music just was everywhere in my life at that time, all day, every day, with Nana playing. And when everyone would come home and there'd be parties, it would just be singing and playing and stuff.
Love that.
So it would have been really strange had I not kind of gone the musical path. So my mum and dad, even though they were both primary school teachers, were music specialist primary school teachers. So they ran the choirs and bands and musicals and things like that. So again, it was just kind of surrounding me. But I never saw myself as a singer, curiously. I was always an instrumentalist, darling, and started my musical journey on violin about age 7 or 8 or so. Didn't get on with violin at all, unfortunately. I didn't like the sound of it. It just like, in the beginning stages, it just tortured me. And as someone who already had very highly developed pitch because of my musical environment, I just couldn't get the damn thing in tune. And so it tortured me on that front as well. I didn't like the sound of it and I couldn't get it in tune. So I moved to a fixed pitch instrument, which was, instruments actually. I started on piano, which, you can play the wrong note, but the thing is not generally out of tune. Mm-hmm. You've got a well-tuned piano. And then I also picked up flute, which again is a fixed pitch instrument. And flute went on to be my full-time study. I did it all through high school, and then went to university, did a music degree, a BMUS in flute. You probably didn't know this, Heather. You're looking at this.
No, I'm like, this is I did not know this about you. I'm like, Lizzo, eat your heart out.
Yeah, literally a full-blown proper classical degree where I was an orchestral flute player.
Wow.
And so flute was my thing. Piano was my second thing, and singing was sort of the important but kind of, secret sort of talent on the side. Something that I enjoy doing. I was always in choirs and musicals and vocal ensembles and things like that growing up. But I never, ever, ever saw myself as a singer as such. I knew I had good pitch, and Mum said that she heard me singing harmonies to adverts when I was 3. So I guess becoming a jingle singer was a bit of a foregone conclusion, really. Thousands and thousands of jingles later, here I am, and I've got 6 to record today. No, 7. 6 for one client and 1 for another. So it's just a part of my daily life now, but that started when I was 3. Never, ever sang the melody. You had to kind of pin me down to make me sing a melody. I always would gravitate to the harmony, but that's because I grew up in a harmonizing home.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's where that comes from. So anyway, even when I was doing my classical degree at Queensland University, because I'd moved to Brisbane by this point, people would talk about me as the jazz singer, because I had joined sort of a multi-harmony jazz group called Scat, and even that was seen as controversial in the 80s, doing a classical degree. She's the jazz singer, jazz. It's like that was seen as like really naughty, and just like, oh my God, she does jazz, So it was it's how times have changed.
Mm-hmm.
But what was curious is I vocally went from that straight into rock, from jazz straight to rock, nothing in between. And the rock very quickly became metal. So I actually fronted a metal band at the same time as playing in orchestras. And so that there were times when I'd go to an orchestral gig playing flute with my hair all up in a bun and, you know, white frilly top and black skirt, you know, doing my thing. Then, like Wonder Woman, would go into the toilet and Wonder Woman and you know, do a few spins. And next thing, I emerge with my hair all kind of out and covered in leather and spikes and buckles and things, and go off and do my metal gig.
It's brilliant.
Wow.
Yeah. So the two at that time were becoming fairly equal in my life, even though flute had been sort of the main thing. The singing thing started sort of creeping up on that. And in 1990 was when I started doing session work because I was offered it. I didn't kind of really know what it was. I just heard about it and someone said, "Oh, we really like your voice and we'd really like you to sing on our advert." And I went, "Oh, that's a thing. I guess that's a thing. Okay, let's do that then." So I did that, and that started a 33-year on. I'm still going, 33 years later. Yeah, I just took to it like a duck to water and just went, "This is me." The precision, the, you know, I mean, the studio environment's weird. Let's face it. You know, it's got no audience. Completely dry acoustic, you know, the scrutiny of hearing every single little thing, and I love it. God knows why. It's a bit,
but it's very challenging as well, because I mean, how much
is.
notice do you get before? So, like you say, you've got a few to record today. Like, have you had lots of time to practice that, or have they sent it to you yesterday and gone, "Can you record this?"
Yeah, no, it is all pretty much, especially in Jingle Land, it is same day quite often, maybe the day before if you're lucky, and it's a very strange world, and you have to, your availability is everything. Your ability to turn something around very, very quickly is everything in that world. So yeah, it's a funny old thing, but I mean, today's is. I think there's one, if I remember right, there's one for the UK that's changed. It's one that I did recently, but they've changed the lyric or something, so I've got to redo it. And the other 6 are for a station in Hong Kong. And I was a little terrified that it was going to be in Chinese. And the reason I say that is because I recently had to do a jingle in Romanian, and it was terrifyingly difficult for someone who's not Romanian.
Yeah,
I mean, I do have had to do a range of languages, and I just do it phonetically. But there are some sounds that they make that I just couldn't do. It was really, really, really hard, really challenging. Yeah. So there were 2 words in particular. No matter what I tried, it's the only time this has happened actually in my session career that I wasn't able to get it. I got the beginning and the end, so they were able to use that, but just there were 2 words in the middle that we had to come up with a plan B and do it as voiceover. No, obviously not me. Yeah. I don't
someone who actually speaks that language.
Like they needed a native speaker to do those bits with those sounds. That I could hear it. It was a matter of putting your tongue in a place I'd never had to before in English or any other languages that I speak. So I'm not sure that I actually finished the question about the singing thing.
That's all right. We'll pick it up.
Because it was this sort of slow stealth sort of thing that, you know, where flute was the front runner and singing was, you know, there but not a front runner, and then just time and opportunity just meant that they met at one point being fairly equal, and then the singing thing just took over.
So it really was a bit of a kind of just circumstances in the right place at the right time.
I fell into it. I did, you know, it was not the plan. It was not the plan. The plan was, when I was at university, was to train as a music teacher, as in high school music teacher, which I did, with French as a second teaching area. So I had a sort of double degree thing, music and French. Which is what I did, actually. You know, I did that for about 3 years after university, and then just went, this life is not for me. I need to perform. And so I went full-time music after those 3 years of a real job. But what made me, I think, at that time, a fairly unorthodox, hard to imagine, isn't it? Unorthodox music teacher is that I was in an orchestra and this metal band at the same time.
Right.
And the kids I was teaching found that really cool.
Yeah.
I think they seem to. I'm still in contact with a lot of them. Yeah, which is because so many of the kids that I taught at that time went on to be professional musicians. Because I started up 3 rock bands, and those rock bands won kind of high school rock awards every year and things like that. So it became a bit of a thing for the school. And that training, I just basically would not let them be kids in the respect of, just because you're a kid, you can't get that wrong. You can't play that wrong chord. You can't play that wrong tempo. You can't play that wrong groove or whatever. So I would put on them, I would rehearse them the same as I would rehearse an adult band. And they just rose to the occasion. So, they were, so it didn't sort of seem weird to them when they were out there in the big wide world.
I love that. Just hold them to higher expectations.
Well, I couldn't see any, just like, and they rose to it.
I was just going to say, I can't tell you the number of times I get annoyed with people for underestimating what kids are capable of doing.
Yeah, I know. It's like, here's what you want to do this song? Okay, here's how we have to do this song. Don't shoot the messenger. No. You chose the song. So, it's like, this is what we have to do. Here's the harmonies, because we usually had 3 or 4 singers in each band. So there was always a lead vocal and BVs, and then they'd sort of swap around and stuff. But yeah, so
it's funny, isn't it? That considering, popular music has been, quite prevalent in the world for quite a number of years now.
Yeah, like since the early 50s.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's bizarre, isn't it, that it's taken so long for us to realise that actually helping people to do that better is only a good thing.
Yep, and it's strange, the lag still in the pedagogical world, the vocal pedagogy world, that pop is still seen with some sort of suspicion, or
absolutely
it's not to be taken seriously, or it's not as challenging or something. I mean, I've been fighting that battle since I became a vocal coach, 27 years ago.
And I feel like that's changing, but I feel like
it is slowly
in the last 10 years, you see more of the kind of the highly classical vocal pedagogues, kind of nodding their heads to the fact that CCM is slightly different.
And it's different, but just as worthy. And it's I generally find, because I'm a CCM specialist coach, it's all I coach. So even though I've done jazz in the past, I wouldn't call myself a jazzer. I think you have to live, breathe, eat, sleep jazz to be kind of call yourself a proper jazz singer. It's something that I can do, and I do it well, but it's not really my thing. So if people, if any classical people come to me or musical theatre people come to me, it is because they want to understand pop at in much more detail. So we really, really drill down into all the details that make up an authentic pop vocal, and pretty much all of them are shocked when we start drilling down into it. It's like, oh my God, I didn't even hear that. I didn't even know that was a thing till you've told me that that's a thing. And when we forensically go through all of the things that have to happen in a line that they're not doing at the moment, I mean, it's something that obviously pop singers do instinctively, but when they're not doing it instinctively because it's not their world, but they're trying to get insight into that world, and we start breaking it all down, and you need to do this here, just in one line, there's so much to think about. It's just like, and it was like, well, good, I'm glad you're having this experience, because this stuff was washing over you before now, and you're aware of it. So the lack of awareness is, a thing.
Absolutely. And I think you're right. If you've involved yourself in one particular genre for all of your life,
it's where your brain is at. It's where your
trying
ears
to
are
kind of
at.
then switch into something else,
it's
is
tough.
a challenge.
It's tough. Yep, absolutely. But I do love that process when you see the pennies drop, and you also see the respect that they have for how difficult it actually is for something that sounds to them like it's basic and it's easy and right until they try to do it properly. And then they go, oh my God, I just had no idea there was so much detail hiding in there, hidden in plain sight.
Absolutely.
There we go.
I mean, the workshop that you did for us, all on, beyond the major scale.
Yes.
I mean, I love it. I mean, so many of our teachers, if you don't come from a music background,
Cool.
so like
That's it.
someone like me, I
That's
came
it.
from an acting background.
There you go.
So someone like me, my brain's going, what are all these
Hello.
scales? What are all
What
these?
is
Oh
this?
my goodness, what is this? Freaking out. But it's so, the teachers absolutely loved your workshop. I loved your workshop. Yeah, very much so. But it really is great to challenge the brain to go, oh, hang on, we haven't thought about that before.
Well, unless you're me. It is literally how I think. So I just realised that I'm the weird one. But what I love with what you've just said, Heather, is it's completely true. Is people come into singing from so many different backgrounds, whether they're dancers or instrumentalists or actors, as you say, or any number of other things that they come into singing with. That's not necessarily that solid musicianship-based training. Do you know what I mean? Unless you come the instrumentalist path like I have, where that's just part of the course. So when you learn piano or you learn flute and you've got grading systems and things like that in the UK and Australia, I don't think the grading system kind of is a thing in the US
Not
from
as
what I
much
can
as in the
gather.
US.
Yeah, exactly. No. But in our where we grew up, that is, that's a thing. So you kind of, you go through the grades and you have that sort of systematic approach to your craft of whatever instrument it is that you're on or whether you're singing, but you also have to have a certain level of theory and musicianship that tracks the increase of grades. So that was just my normal. So it never crossed my mind to not apply that to another instrument, which was the voice. The voice is all body parts, but it's still an instrument. It still abides by musical principles. And what I find really interesting in what you said, Heather, is the fact that even though you didn't have that musical background, you are intimately interacting with that world anyway. Whether you're actually aware of it or not aware of it, you are in that world. Yeah. And so, you are already singing melodies based on the major scale, the minor scale, major pentatonic, minor pentatonic, blues scale, the various modes. You're already singing
before.
those things. Yeah, but it's just I guess in some respects like a native speaker in a language where they may not necessarily have learnt lots of grammar and sentence syntax and or all of the machinery names of how their language works, but they operate in it at a native level. That's clearly what you're doing with music.
That's it. Yes.
But there you can take a step back and go, actually, what am I thinking?
Yeah, and I think that's fascinating to be able to do that.
Yeah, and it's like, and why? Why does that melody? Why does that note choice work so beautifully? And why does it sound different to that one? And why does that one note in one option versus another option make such a difference? That's where it kind of interests me. It's just all that endless, gorgeous variety.
If you're going to start to do any kind of vocal improvisation, runs, riffs,
you'll have to go there.
That knowledge is essential.
Yep, without a doubt, because people can become very stuck in a limited circle of note choice, unless they are actually, exposed to other options. And it's something that I've noticed in my own coaching, because I coach sort of, professional singers and artists of various levels, everything from sort of people who are just signed and in sort of the development phase all the way through to people like Sam Fender, who are, just last weekend was, it wasn't. He did Glasgow last year, but he was actually at Transmit on Saturday night.
Glasgow,
yes, and he's pulling audiences of over 100,000 just for his own gigs now. So it's literally kind of one extreme to the other in terms of the artistry spectrum. Right. But nonetheless, any artist is writing their own material, trying to express themselves through their own music. And what I have noticed is when I've introduced new patterns to people in coaching sessions and we're doing exercises on them and we're listening to songs based on them, I kind of have this secret hope that it is going to go into the creative store in them and sort of mix around for a bit and percolate and then come out at some point later
like
down the
osmosis. Yeah.
If it's wanted, it just goes in there in the pot and comes out. And it has happened. Mm-hmm. It has absolutely happened several times, actually. And I've gone, oh, that's interesting. Do you realise this song that you've written, this is like months later, do you realise that that's modal? We go, no, just like the sound of it. Good, that's the best reason, because no one wants to do anything kind of mechanically or scientifically. Mm-hmm. It's like, I am going to write a Dorian melody. That's the suckiest reason to ever do anything, right? But when creativity just goes there and it's just one of those flavors, just like an excellent chef in the kitchen can have a look at the range of ingredients and just go, yeah, I'm going to have a bit of that and a bit of that and a bit of that, and and they create the magic. It's only when it already exists that I feel comfortable to kind of shine a light on it and say, do you realize that you have written a Lydian melody or a Dorian melody? And then they're usually like, oh, that's so cool. But what I feel relieved by was that was an afterthought, not the catalyst. That wasn't the reason they wrote that. It's just they loved the sound of that because that flavor had gone in there.
Yeah.
And came out again at a later date just the right way.
That's a great analogy with the chef cooking, just understanding the ingredients and then just instinctively you pick up.
That's it. Because
really nice
for me,
meal.
hearing is a sense, taste is a sense. They're just different senses, right? So all of those different musical patterns that we create vocal melodies out of, to me, are like, flavors as well. So this is why I get a bit frustrated, as you would have also seen in my presentation, about us teachers in particular just restricting unnecessarily, from my standpoint, things to be just too much one flavor, which is just major, 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 major. We do major 5-note scales, we do major arpeggios, we do, major, 9-note scales. And as I said, I'm not anti the major scale, like, at all. But I just love the full breadth of what's available. And that is already being used in actual songs. So I would just personally love to see vocal exercises just cover a similar spectrum. So that,
So
what?
Is that what led you then to create your Funky and Fun series that you were sharing with us?
Yes. Funny you should have noticed that. Thank you for noticing. But yes, absolutely. There were a few things that led to the creation of Funky and Fun. But I do have to start by saying I never, ever wanted to have to make something like that. I just assumed it existed. So I was given a class, a vocal technique group class, on a degree course that I was teaching on in London. And I was just really looking for something that was just going to be more engaging, more interesting, more challenging musically, and sort of down, something that was going to be down the taste lines of what was going to work for a pop group, because that's it was a group of degree students learning about pop.
Right.
So all of the myriad of classically based options that were out there, great as they are, they're just alienating to that audience, because they listen to that kind of classical type of pattern. They listen to the classical vocal delivery. They listen to a piano, just a piano, and it just seemed a bit of another world. Sort of like, if you wanted to be a street funk dancer or break dancer or something, doing ballet stretches. It's like there's nothing wrong with ballet stretches, right? But it's a very, very different world, literally, right? So that's why I was looking for something that was going to work for that class. And I bought everything pretty much that I could lay my hands on, and so much of it is still hiding over there in my bookshelf that you can see over the back there. I spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds on products, books that said things like rock singing technique, and you'd have someone going ah on the front cover, right? And then I'd play the exercises that came with it. It was la 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 la. It's like, doesn't sound like any rock singer I've ever heard. So I was so frustrated with not being able to find something suitable for purpose that I was then starting to go, oh my God, I am going to have to make this. Really? So I had a little keyboard at the time that was programmable and did little beats and things. And so I just created these backing tracks on that keyboard and recorded them onto, I think it was like mini disc. Yes.
Yay.
I think it was mini disc. Yeah, because I had a little mini disc player. And I took them to the class and I created exercises, based on those beats and those funky kind of chords and things. And the class just loved it, absolutely loved it. And they said, Kim, this is great that we're doing this in class, but we'd like to do this in between as well. And that's when I went, I guess I have to go to a studio and record them then, right? Funky and Fun 1 was born. That's literally how it came to be, is wanting to have something that culturally connected with pop singers in the groove, in the way it's sung, because it's sung by a pop voice, not a classical voice, that it's not just a piano, that it's based on the range of patterns used in pop music, not just major everything. So that is literally where that came from. And I went on to have other children, which was Funky and Fun 2, Funky and Fun 3, Funky and Fun 4, and just like children, really. And Funky and Fun 4, don't tell the others, but it's my favourite. That typical last child thing.
I know, the baby of the family.
Yeah, I'm not going to say, there's not going to be a Funky and Fun 5 or whatever, but they are incredibly labour intensive to produce these types of products. And even with the 4 products I have, there's already almost 100 exercises. So I do sort of figure I've contributed rather heavily already, really, in the scheme of things. Do you know what I mean? Because there's quite a lot to delve into in almost 100 exercises. So as I said, Funky and Fun 4 is my indulgence. And
so just, from your point of view then, if somebody is coming to it for the first time, do you recommend they go back and start at number 1? Or do you recommend they go to number 4 and just, go for the newest version?
Nah, because each one, just like a child, has its own personality and its own thing. So, so Funky and Fun 1 is a range of technique-based exercises that, as I said, were applicable to that class and applicable to anybody who wants to have, pop-based breathing exercises, range extension, articulation, agility exercises, pitch accuracy, blah, blah, blah. So Funky and Fun 1, I thought, in fact, it was only ever just called Funky and Fun. It was never called Funky and Fun 1 until number 2 became necessary. So I had people saying, we love those exercises, but are there any more? Can we have some more, please? This is like for a few years, right? It's like, we need some more. And I went, oh God, okay, yeah, I guess. So I created the same backing track thing and did a whole range of harder technique exercises than what's on number one. Although even what's on number one, there are some doozies there that I still really sweat about when I've got to demonstrate them live. Like some of them are really hardcore. Do you know what I mean? So it's not for the faint-hearted, that's for sure. So anyway, that's when Funky and Fun 2 came into existence as the big brother of number one or big sister. Then Funky and Fun 3 is a totally different product. And 3 and 4 are really more musicianship based as opposed to technique based. They assume that your technique is already pretty damn good, and now it's you really need to concentrate on the ear development stuff, but still via singing exercises. So I was one of the degree auditioners at the time that Funky and Fun 3 became necessary. So I was auditioning a number of really great singers, as in, amazing singing voices, but they didn't have the musicianship knowledge to be able to join a degree at that time.
Right.
They couldn't read music. They didn't understand, the building blocks. So because we had things in the audition such as, I'd play a note and it was like, can you sing the remaining notes of a minor 7 flat 5 on top of that?
Okay.
And here's a note. Seriously. Another note, could you please sing the remaining notes of a Mixolydian mode, right?
Wow.
And people are literally looking at me like I'm speaking another language. And I would say to them, unfortunately, even though you've got an amazing singing voice, you don't have the theoretical knowledge for this type of because the course was really quite hardcore. And it's like, maybe thwart up on that and try again next year kind of thing. And they said, but I don't play piano. I don't read. How am I going to learn these patterns? And I went, good question. Yeah. Yes, how are you going to learn these? Right, so I thought the only way, or a better way, not the only way, but certainly an expedient way for vocalists to learn about musicianship is via their voice. Oh, yes, the voice in their ears, right? So I just created a product that was singing exercises based on the musicianship pattern, so all the intervals and different scales and modes and arpeggios of different chord types and things like that. So Funky and Fun 3 is a 50-track extravaganza of musicianship.
Wow.
I actually call it, it's my evil child. I call it Funky and Evil, actually. But some people, it's their favourite product out of all the 4. So, to each their own.
Absolutely.
And then Funky and Fun 4 is riffs harvested from real songs, so hit songs in the sort of funk era and turned into vocal exercises. So they're still really stretchy. A number of them are actually instrumental parts, not vocal parts, which is what makes them even kind of more challenging to sing. But they're lines that people will have heard many times, string lines and horn lines and bass lines and things like that. And, using them as singing exercises. But what I do like is the fact that it does relate to real material, which is another kind of thing that I'm really hyper aware of as someone who has created vocal exercise products, is that, vocal exercises are just a means to an end. They are not songs. They are not music. They are just building blocks to help people sing the songs better.
Right.
Ultimate aim.
Right.
So the more that vocal exercises reflect real songs, that's a good fit from my standpoint.
Yeah.
Because you did one of those, I can't remember the song, but in the class you did at our conference, you did one of those riffs. I think it was a guitar riff. And you just saw everybody's faces were like,
possible.
Oh.
Stevie Wonder. I think we were doing a bit of Stevie.
Oh, that's right. Stevie Wonder, yeah. And it was just like you saw people's faces as they were trying to get it. And they're like, wow, this is hard. And then the key changed and they're like, oh, this is hard.
Yeah, And, one of the criticisms against 3 and 4 in particular, the musicianship ones, has been that everything's too fast. and it's too hard. And I'm sorry, I can't apologize for that. I'm not going to apologize for that, and I'm not going to change it, because I want it to be at that level of fluency. Not if you have to slow this down, if do that in your own time as the necessary work to be able to do the exercise at speed.
Right.
Yeah, that is the point. And it can be broken down pretty easily, and people can do that in their own time as the groundwork to then be able to run the exercise with fluency. It'd be like, if you're doing a learning English course and you speak at that sort of, it's accurate, right? But it's just horrible to listen with that amount of space in between. Do you know what I mean?
Right,
and musical fluency is the same. So, as I said, if people are struggling with the speed that the patterns happen, just do the breakdown work till you're ready. But I ain't going to slow the exercise down because, English speakers or any language speakers don't speak like that.
No, you have to be fluent.
So,
you're right.
Yeah. So, fluency is speed as well and accuracy fused together. And so, as I said, I'm not going to change it now. Sorry.
See, I'm going to make myself sound very old now because I have your Funky and Fun 1, 2, and 3 on CD.
No, I think what you meant to say, Heather, was stone tablet. Yes. Oh, that's amazing.
On cassette. Wow. I've got them on CD. But I'm assuming that these days you no longer sell them that way.
Yes, they've been MP3s for a very long time. They have been MP3s for... yes, wow.
Exactly.
I don't think we even have a CD player. I
just
don't. One of those things consigned to history, really.
So, where can people find out more about you and your products and everything?
I'm hidden away in a cupboard somewhere. No, my poor old website that hasn't been fed for quite some time, but really mostly because, not being funny, I'm so busy that just to have to update the damn thing just takes too much time. And anyway, that is literally what's going on with my poor website. So if anyone looks at it and goes, oh, okay, what's going on there? It says, well, it hasn't been fed in a while. So please just know that. So anyway, it's kimchandler.com. Then Funky and Fun has its own dedicated website, which is funkyandfun.com. So FUNKYNFUN.com. And my recording service, because we were one of the first. When I say we, it's not like the royal we. It's my husband and myself. My husband's a guitarist and engineer. In fact, he's upstairs in our other studio, 2 floors up, mixing something as we speak. And then I'll tell him this is done and we'll record the jingles in a moment. But so we work together but work apart as well. It's really cool. But we have this recording service called virtualvocals.com. And we were one of the first people to offer online recording work in the world.
Amazing.
So we've been offering that since, ready for it? 2004.
That's impressive.
Yep. Wow. And it was when Skype became stable enough to be used as a way of doing remote producing so that people anywhere in the world could listen to me while I was recording what they wanted me to record for them. We could all interact with each other because even at that time, ISDN was still the main technology for that. Mm-hmm. And it would cost in London at that time, it was around £100 an hour to rent or use an ISDN line. Wow. So if we could offer free Skype, as in because Skype is still free, it took, that took a major part of the cost of sessions, online sessions, remote sessions away. So, yeah, we've been doing it almost 20 years.
Wow.
and have a very large client base across the world built up over that time. So that's another part of my world.
Fantastic. We'll make sure links to all of those are put in the show notes. So if you're listening along now, you can just click on one of those links if you want to find
Thank you so much. That's
stuff.
awesome.
Well, thank you so much.
Well,
for the whole day, I think.
Yeah, I know yes, that is the problem. But these jingles are not going to sing themselves.
No, we must let you carry on and get.
So yes, I need to get on to still doing this work before AI takes it over. So whilst this work still exists, I got to do it, right?
Thank you so much for joining us today, Kim. It's been
You're very, very welcome.
So that was Kim, and like I said at the end, but we genuinely could have probably talked for about 3 hours about so many things, because there was so much stuff she does that we didn't get a chance to talk about. You know,
I know.
I remember seeing Kim singing on backing vocals on Strictly Come Dancing in the UK a while back, and you know she does loads of stuff like that we didn't get a chance to chat about. You know, but I mean, she's so busy. I
was going to say, she's clearly a very busy lady. But I mean, I love the way that she was showing us around just virtually showing us around her little studio setting that she'd built for herself in Spain. You know, this whole basement is completely soundproofed, and she's got a vocal booth. I mean, it helps when your husband's also a sound producer and things. So they can do it all wherever they are in the world. I mean, she's really kind of molded a unique kind of working position for herself, which is phenomenal, you know.
Yeah, and she mentioned that though, didn't she? That like it's particularly in the jingle world where like speed and how quickly you can respond dictates about the jobs that you get, and so having that setup that you can just walk into, like, obviously gives her that edge, and obviously the years and years of experience she's had doing these jingles. I mean, I'm sure we've probably heard Kim singing on things and not realised that it's her, you know, like she mentioned doing radio jingles, so you hear like between the songs and stuff like that. So, you know, we've probably heard her so many times over the years and not realised, oh, that's Kim, yeah, you know.
And it does, and that's where her, you know, kind of musicianship really pays dividends for her, because there aren't many people that could just pick up a completely new song and within an hour have it laid down, perfect vocal, all the harmonies. You know, she just is gifted in that sense, and that musical knowledge really kind of allows her to do that sort of work that I think, you know, I would struggle to do that. I would find that incredibly difficult, but it just seems to come very, very automatically for her.
It's a bit like some of when she was talking about it, I was thinking about the similarities to Gerald talking about session singing, you know, handed a piece of paper, walk into the booth and sing it on the first take. Like, it seems to be a common theme in the musical world, doesn't it? Or the music industry, you know, time is money, things are expensive, nobody's got time for you to learn stuff. So it's like, here's the piece of paper, on you go. First take, second take max kind of thing. And so it's a different world to live in when you're not used to that. And I imagine first time people, you know, you're just getting signed up or you're just getting started in this career, the first time you walk into that professional situation, it's probably terrifying.
Oh, it would absolutely terrify me. I want as much rehearsal as I can get before I have to do anything. I want preparation time. Like, it would terrify me to go, right, here you go, just go. I'd be like, no.
Yeah.
You know, it's a skill.
But some people, like I listened to her during the class when she was talking about it, and we chatted to her after the class when we were arranging the podcast, and she was talking more about, you know, stuff that she can't share publicly, you know, but was just kind of commenting without names and stuff about things that she's done, and I was listening to that sounds so exciting. I could see myself doing that, and then when you think about it, you're like, oh yeah, but you know, it's terrifying. It is, yeah. You know, how do you start? Where do you start? You know?
And it does seem to be, because it was a very similar story for Gerald, as her. You kind of fall into it. You meet the right person, you're in the right place at the right time. It doesn't seem to be a very kind of structured, you do X, Y, and Z, and then you will get work session singing. A lot of stars have to align, it appears. It's a difficult thing to kind of set out to do.
Yeah, I've heard that from other people that work in the music industry at, upper levels of the music industry. Like, a lot of the time it's right place, right time, or who you know that gets you your foot in the door, which I suppose to some people could be frustrating, isn't it? Because, you're desperate for it, but you're just not in that right place at the right moment.
It just shows the value of networking.
Absolutely.
That's the way forward. If you want to, get in the game, you've got to get out there. You've got to talk to people. You've got to meet people. You've got to, be the person they've heard of, they've seen.
Social media.
Absolutely.
It's a big part these days.
Totally. All of that.
You hear
helps.
stories like what they like the development, like they look for artists that already have like ready-made presences where they can just pick them up and fund them, as opposed to building somebody up. Like there's stories, I don't know the full story, but I know bits and pieces. Like Jessie J was signed for many years and in development before she was released into the world as like, who she is. And a lot of people think she was just an overnight success, but no, I'm sure she was signed for like 4 or 5 years and wasn't allowed to do anything whilst they were working on whatever it is that they do in that field. So I find it all fascinating. I like, as a nosy person, like somebody who's nosy, I love knowing what's going on behind the scenes. Like I've watched the documentaries where it's like, Beyonce, but it's like backstage, seeing all the people running around like with costumes and madness and stuff, and she's on stage and walks off, and then it's like a flurry of events, and then she struts back on. I love that. I just love that stuff. I love hearing about it and how it works. It just
backstage gossip.
Yes, love it. It's just, it's fascinating. It is, because, if you're not in that world, like walking backstage and just, because I think, like, and I'm guilty of it too, like you sit and watch a show, like a singer or a show, and you forget that there's like 50 people frantically running around behind the scenes, making the seamless experience that you're watching on stage happen. And so I think we'll forget about that, or don't realize because we're not experienced it,
Yeah, you're right. It's fascinating
fun.
stuff.
It is.
Fascinating. So,
makes me want to move to London and become a something. Work in wardrobe or do the laundry. I can fix the washing machine if it needs a dodgy part.
That's it, sold.
Somebody's got to get that green makeup out of Wicked costumes. I bet it's a lot of fun. What do you do for a living?
Gosh.
I wash the costumes at Wicked. I do.
It's a job. There's somebody out there doing it. There's somebody out there doing it. It's
in the theatre. I would quite happily do that. I'm not picky.
Yeah.
Although I draw the line of cleaning the toilets.
Somebody's got to do that too.
I know. Not me, but somebody else.
Especially if they're green toilets. I'm not sure how far down they greenify alphabet.
I don't know.
Would it affect sitting on the toilet pads? I don't know. We'll ask Emily.
If her hands are green.
We speak to her.
Yeah. Green handprints on the toilet seat from green hands.
Yes. I love it.
I could imagine. Can you imagine like you got an itchy eye and you scratch it, forgetting you've got like green hands and you're like
everywhere.
All over your face.
Everywhere.
Oh dear.
I love it. So who's on our next? What's our next episode, Tom? What's up next on our podcast? Do we know yet?
So our next, I was thinking about it actually before we came on, and our next episode is, I'm not sure.
It's a surprise.
It's a surprise. Mm-hmm.
We love those ones.
We have there's a couple of episodes in development with people, so we don't quite know what order they're going to come out in yet.
Right, there we go. So you'll just have to make sure you're subscribed, and then you'll find out. We'll keep you in suspense. How do they make sure that they don't miss an episode of the Vocal Advancement Podcast, Tom?
Well, make sure you go to wherever you consume your podcasts and you click the subscribe or the follow button, and then you can get notified when our next episode with the mystery guest comes out. I'm building it up now, haven't I? Mystery guests.
I was going to say, it better be a good one or they'll be disappointed.
I know, no pressure.
It's going to be whoever washes the costumes at the backstage of Wicked in the West End. That's who it'll be, yeah. We'll get them in.
How do you keep your whites white? Is it Daz or bold? And you want to make sure, if you want to see the video shenanigans, as I said, I was going to say Heather. Kim is a bundle of energy, so, you can watch our excitement in video as well on our YouTube channel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Find us on YouTube if you prefer to see it rather than just listen to it, or just listen to us.
Yeah, perhaps you're a visual person and you prefer to see us.
Yeah. I like to listen while I'm out walking the dog. Whatever floats your boat. Or in the car, driving somewhere. Love a podcast in the car.
I like when I'm cooking, I like, doing all your prep before you start cooking, chopping your onions and things. I like to just slip a little podcast on.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good.
I love it. Well, there you go.
It's
So
nice,
wherever
it's
you're
cultural.
listening to us, whether you're in the car, doing your cooking, walking the dog,
In the bath.
in the bath. Are we in the bath with you?
Be careful there, just in case.
Don't forget to wash behind your ears. There we go. Right. Wherever you are. Thank you very much for listening to us today.
I can't get that vision in my head.
And on that note,
Breathe.
we're going to say goodbye and leave you in peace. You don't need us.
Yeah.
You get on with what you're doing.
Oh, no, cut.